was Three Blind Mice, and what I did was I took a single note melody line and then I harmonized it using a few simple basic principles. They're outlined in my book, Arranging with C. Dega. I'm going to show them in brief to you right now. But it's important for you to know that if you can pick out a single note melody line on the guitar, you don't need any other information. You don't need to look at a lead sheet. You don't need to know what the chords of a standard arrangement are. The melody line is enough for you to do a chord melody arrangement that sounds exactly like the melody line harmonized with chords. A few simple basic principles. Melody notes can be placed in chords very effectively as either the third of the chord, the root of a chord, or the fifth of a chord for a basic framework. It's always going to work as one of those. You want to know the forms, especially that for the top three strings that carry a melody note as either a third, a root, or a fifth. My book, Arranging with C. Dega, really breaks down those forms. There are a limited number of them. Basic forms. Very important to learn, very useful. When you know those forms, you can quickly build harmony chord scales. Those are scales that are chord scales which keep melody notes on the tops of the chords. I'm going to show you the harmony scale that I used for this arrangement right here. It's in the key of A. This is an A note right here, third string, second fret. And the A note is the one chord of the key. It's the key of A. And I want to place these notes that I'm going through here mostly as thirds of chords. So the A in the key of A happens to be the third of the sixth chord. Jump back two chords to find out any melody note and place it as a third of a chord. An A note, jump back two chords, it's the third of the sixth chord. I'm playing the sixth chord as an E form right here. I know the E form in this three-note version I'm playing carries its third on the third string. Since these melody notes, 3, 2, 1, are all on the third string, I'm going to be using this E form. So harmonizing this one melody note as part of the sixth chord, harmonizing this two note as part of the seven chord, harmonizing the three note as part of a one chord. I'm harmonizing melody notes as thirds right now. Continue. Harmonizing the four melody note as part of a two chord. Harmonizing the five melody note as part of a three chord. All using the same exact form, the E form, which carries its third on the third string. Now I have a five melody note right here. I can harmonize it as a third of a note of a chord right here, or I can switch up here where the melody note exists the same. This is the five melody note. Now it's on the second string. I know this A form carries the third on the second string. So from here on out, use the A form. Five melody note harmonized as part of a three chord. The sixth melody note harmonized as part of a four chord. Still using the A form. Seven melody note harmonized as part of a five chord. Played as a dominant, because the five chord is always a dominant in a harmonized scale. Using the A form. And then for this last note right here, the one note, the high one note, I'm harmonizing that as a root of its own chord. I know the D form or the C form harmonizes roots on the second string. Those chords are all broken down in my book and explained in detail in Arranging with C. Dega. That's the scale that I'm using to come up with this basic harmonization. Now look at what I do. These are all chords I just showed you. Harmonizing that note as a root at the end, the one note. You see that I just did a whole basic framework harmonizing those melody notes using the chord forms that we just showed you as part of the harmony chord scale. Very quickly, substitutes that I used in the arrangement. Okay, if I'm playing a one note here, it's easy to switch in the 13th chord. can play it as a root, or I can put it as a third of a chord, in which case the one note is part of the sixth chord. And look at the difference. So when I switch in that 13th, it has enough notes in common that it just sounds good as a substitute chord. Let's take a look at what I did on the first part of that melody line. I went here the first time through. The second time I did, same three melody notes, just taking an octave higher. Just a 3, a 2, and a 1. But because the 3 exists here now on the first string, I want to harmonize it as a third. I'm using a D form, because I know the D form carries its third on the first string. It's just broken down in my book Arranging with C. Dega, but that's how I knew. Place it as a third. Here I'm just playing a variation of an A form chord, A form type chord, instead of playing a more basic version. And again, instead of playing a simple 6 chord to harmonize this one note, choosing a 13th type chord. So that's the substitutes I used there. The second time through. And then look, I came. Those are just those basic chords from the harmony chord scale. The second time through. And all I'm doing is taking the same melody notes. Sorry, 5, 4, 3. But the 5, instead of harmonizing it with a basic 3 chord, placing the 5 as a third, I'm just choosing a 13th. Same melody note, same position. Just switching that in. Instead of playing a basic 2 chord to harmonize the 4, I'm just changing it up slightly with a slightly jazzier chord, but still retaining the melody note right there, the 4 melody note. So I started with my basic chord, then I went to a jazzier chord, and that's right in the same position. And then there's that basic chord with the 3 on top. I just added a fuller version of the same chord, basically. And then for that other section, first time through, it's just using 2 basic chords from that harmony chord scale. The root chord, the root 1 chord, and the 5 melody note harmonized by a 3 chord. The second time through, instead of playing the melody note harmonized as a root, I'm just switching in the chord to put the melody note at the top of a minor 7 flat 5 type chord, and then I'm just using that chord chromatically. For that last part, all these are just variations of melody notes on the first string played with D-type forms, but I'm switching in. Instead of playing that 5 melody note up here as part of a 3 chord, I could, but I just played as part of a D form minor 7 flat 5. I just carry that down to harmonize the 4. Then I switch in a simple major 7th with its third on the first string, harmonizing the 3 notes. So this is actually a 1 chord of the key in A form, major 7th.